Welcome to AI and Ethics, the podcast where we explore how artificial intelligence is transforming our institutions, industries, and everyday lives, and ask what responsibility, accountability, and human oversight should look like in an AI powered world. Today, we are turning our attention to one of the most consequential areas of AI innovation: the future of financial services. Artificial intelligence is no longer limited to generating insights, detecting fraud, or supporting customer services. We are entering the area of agentic AI, where autonomous systems can plan, use tools, collaborate with other agents, and potentially initiate actions involving payments, compliance, risk, and access to financial services. This raises a new and urgent set of questions. How much authority should an AI agent have? Who is responsible when an autonomous system makes the wrong decision? What happens when an agent exceeds its mandate? And perhaps most importantly, who has the power to stop an AI agent while it is moving money? To explore these questions, Nikhil Kassetty joins me today in our AI and Ethics podcast. Nikhil, welcome to AI and Ethics. It is a great pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me as a guest. And to just give a brief intro, like I'm a software architect with about 14 years of experience across financial technology, AI, cloud platforms, payments, and also like large scale enterprise systems. And I'd say like a big part of my work is kind of focused on building systems that are not only intelligent and scalable, but also making sure they are secure, reliable, and trustworthy. So, and like more recently, I've been working deeply in agentic AI, especially around governance, authorization, observability, and how safely we allow these AI systems to take the real world actions.
Yes, I like and appreciate your experiences. For all our audience, Nikhil's work focuses on designing financial products and platforms that are smarter, safer, and more user-centric. His experience spans technology, financial services, government, and public sector transformation, giving him a broad perspective on how innovation operates in highly regulated and socially consequential environments. Nikhil advocates for a pragmatic approach to AI architecture, one in which organizations select the right model for each task rather than automatically choosing the largest, most complex, or most expensive option. So, Nikhil, your career combines engineering, system architecture, artificial intelligence, FinTech, and strategic leadership. Which experiences most significantly shaped your journey toward becoming what we might call today an AI powered architect?
So related to that, I would say, uh, like my journey has really been shaped by like one consistent thing. It's more of like building systems that people can trust. So I started as a backend engineer working on distributed systems and financial platforms where I learned that like when software handles something is important, like as people's money or sensitive data, on reliability, security, and compliance are not just like optional things. So they have to be the fundamental aspects. And as my career progressed into system architecture, I wasn't just thinking about how to build scalable systems, but also how to design platforms that could evolve with the changing business needs and regulations. And if you see, like over the last few years, and AI has completely changed that conversation. So we are moving from systems that simply processes requests to systems that can reason, plan, and take actions on our behalf. So the shift is incredibly exciting, but also it raises new questions around trust, governance, accountability, and security. So that's what naturally drew me toward agentic AI. And also, like today, I spend a lot of time thinking about how we can build these AI systems that are not only intelligent, but also transparent, observable, and like governed responsibly. And because in the end, I don't really think success is just measured by how autonomous a system is, It's more of measured by how confidently people can trust it when it matters the most.
Yes, it's true. You are recognized for bridging strategy and engineering. Why is that connection so important when organizations move from experimenting with AI to deploying in the real world financial systems?
I would say that the biggest shift we are seeing today is that like organizations are moving from asking, can AI do this, to can we trust AI to do this? So these are like very different questions. So experimenting with AI is relatively easy, but you can build a proof of concept in a few days, but deploying AI into production, especially in industries like finance, healthcare, or government, it's much more than choosing the right model. So you have to think about the governance, security, compliance, again, like observability aspects, the cost, and how the system behaves when something unexpected happens. So that's where the strategy and engineering have to come together. So strategy defines what problems are worth solving and like what level of risk is acceptable. And also on the other side, engineering translates those goals into systems that are scalable, resilient, and also trustworthy. So for me, like I would say, successful AI adoption isn't about deploying the most advanced model. It's more about building a system that a business or like a regulators and ultimately the users can trust those systems with confidence.
Thank you. I had the right answer because in different discussions we have discussed how the governance of AI could be responsible, how these teams, let's say, need to be organized and to collaborate between each other because uh, it's not only what you said and emphasized before, not only, let's say, the technology and the model we use, but how we use and for which we use and how, let's say, responsibly and effectively it will impact, let's say, the community and the consumers. So
Mhm.
thank you very much. Your experience, let's say, is one of the most important because you have worked with all these teams and making this happen. So it's very important for me today, this discussion, to better understand how this happen in a more effective way and in a more impactful and responsible way. So you have worked across technology, financial services, government, and public sector's transformation. How have these different environments shaped your understanding of responsible innovation?
Uh, I would s- I would say like the biggest lesson is that like while the technology changes, the responsibility doesn't, I would say. So whether you are building the systems for financial institutions or government organizations or any large enterprise, the expectations are like kind of similar. They just that people expect the systems to be secure, reliable, fair, and transparent. So the regulations may differ, but trust is always the foundation, is what I believe. So working across these different environments also taught me that innovation just doesn't have to come at the expense of that governance. In fact, the best innovations are the ones that are designed with governance from the beginning rather than kind of added as a later compliance exercise kind of thing, right? So that's especially relevant today with agentic AI systems because the systems can make decisions, use external tools, and even collaborate with other agents. But again, the question is still, can they do it? And also, like, it's should they do it under what conditions and what remains accountable until that point? So I think that's where my perspective has like evolved the most. So I kind of no longer see the security, compliance, and governance as constraints on innovation. So I see them as like enablers that allow organizations to confidently deploy AI at scale. So when people trust the system, they are far more willing to adapt it, and that's ultimately what makes innovation successful.
You have designed payment and compliance solutions intended to serve millions of users. What are the hardest trade offs between scalability, security, speed, reliability, and customer experience?
I would say the hardest trade of balancing these aspects is more of like not compromising on the trust aspect, right? That is more important. So in financial systems, like everyone wants transactions to be instant and frictionless. But at the same time, every transaction has to be secure, compliant, and also resilient against fraud. So if you add too many controls, you create friction for legitimate users. So if you remove too many, you increase that risk. So finding that balance is one of the biggest challenges. So and also like another trade-off or something like I would say like it's becoming more important with AI is automation versus human oversight. So AI can significantly speed up decisions and also improve that operational efficiency. But I would say not every decision should be fully autonomous. So like let's high impact actions, whether it's approving credit or like moving money or like handling any sensitive customer data still need better guardrails and in some cases human involvement. So I've learned that the goal isn't just to maximize the automation, it is to maximize the trust along with automation. So the best financial platforms aren't just necessarily to be the fastest. So they have to be the one that customers can rely on and regulators are comfortable with and organizations can confidently scale over time. And I think that's the balance every modern financial system should strive for.
Much of the public discussion about AI in banking focuses on chatbots, personalization, and fraud detection. At a deeper architectural level, how is AI changing the design and operation of financial services?
I would say like we are at the beginning of much bigger shift than like I would say like many people realize. So AI is moving from being an assistant that answers questions to become an active participant in business processes now. So traditionally, banking systems were built around deterministic workflows. Like let's say if you look at it, like every rule and every step was explicitly defined. But with AI, especially agentic AI, we are introducing systems that can reason, plan, and coordinate with other systems and make decisions within those defined boundaries. So that kind of changes the architecture itself. So it's no longer just about integrating an AI model into an application, but we need like new architectural layers for authorization or like runtime governance, observability, or like policies and how auditable it is. So it's like in many ways, AI is becoming another actor in the system, and it has to be treated with the same level of those identity permissions and also accountability as a human user or a service. So, and also I think we'll see a move away from relying on like a single large model. So I see like organizations are definitely increasing adopting multimodal and also like agent-based architecture. So where different models are selected based on the task, balancing accuracy, like latency, cost, and privacy. So that for me, the real transformation, I would say, it isn't just a chatbot on the front end, but it's on the intelligent decision making layer that's beginning to sit at the core of enterprise systems. So I would say like where the next wave, like or the better innovation can ideally happen.
You describe your work as making financial products smarter, safer, and more user centric. How can organizations provide genuinely useful personalization without becoming intrusive or exploiting sensitive financial data?
I would say personalization is valuable only when it genuinely helps the customer. The moment it starts feeling intrusive or like manipulative, right? You are kind of uh, already lost their trust. So for me, it starts with a simple principle. Just because we can use data, that doesn't always mean we should. And financial data is deeply personal. So organizations need to be intentional about what they collect, what they are using it for, and how transparent they are with the customer. So from an architectural standpoint, if you look at it, I believe Personalization should be privacy first. So that means using only the data that's necessary, protecting the most through like strong security controls and giving users the clarity and where appropriate control how their information is used. Like with today's AI capabilities, we can often deliver meaningful personalization without exposing or sharing more sensitive data than necessary. I would say the ultimately the goal isn't just to know everything about the customer, it's just to understand enough to deliver value while respecting their privacy. So I think the organizations that get that balance right will earn something more valuable than the real engagement, and also like long lasting trust, I would say.
AI can strengthen fraud detection and risk management, but it can also incorrectly flag legitimate customers or reinforce existing inequalities. How should financial institutions balance security with fairness and financial inclusion? What's your opinion?
That's a really important question because in financial services, a false positive isn't just like a technical error. So it can affect someone's ability to make a payment, access credit, or even participate in the economy. So I think AI should more of like augment that human decision making, not replace it entirely, especially for high impact decisions. The goal isn't to just eliminate risk at all costs, it's to make better, fairer decisions. That means continuously monitoring models for that bias and drift, and also using diverse and better representative data, and making sure decisions are explainable rather than treating AI as a black box. And at the end of the day, if you look at like fraud preventions and financial inclusion, shouldn't be like competing goals. So with the right governance, transparency, and human oversight, AI can definitely help us improve both. And trust comes not just from catching every fraudulent transaction, but also from treating every legitimate customer fairly as well in general.
When an AI system influences payment, a compliance decision or a customer's access to a financial service, who should ultimately be accountable for the outcome?
And for the outcome, I would say the accountability has to remain with the organization and the humans who deploy the AI, and not the AI itself, right? So, because AI can provide recommendations, automate workflows, or even take actions with the defined boundaries, but it shouldn't be treated as a decision maker in terms of like illegal or any ethical sense. So, the responsibility should still lie with the people who designed the system, who approved its use, and who established that governance around it. So I think the AI agents become more autonomous, with the distinction becomes even more important. So we need that clear ownership, clear authorization boundaries, and complete auditability, so that if something goes wrong, we can understand what happened, why it happened, and who had the authority to make or approve that decision. So the responsibility of AI isn't just about removing humans from the process. So it's about making sure humans remain accountable while AI helps them make better, faster, and more consistent decisions. So technology can execute the task, but accountability should always remain human.
Yes, I agree with what you said.
Yeah, that's really important. Yeah.
Yes, and that's why one of most important, let's say, issues I opened this podcast, because this is a very very important conversation. So to not replace the human and the authority and the humans has, but to support the processes.
Right.
So to facilitate our processes in all the sectors, but always to be human in the end. Thanks, Nikhil. Agentic AI can do more than generate a recommendation. It can plan, use tools, retain context, and take actions. What distinguishes an AI agent from traditional automation, and why does that distinction matter in finance?
So I think the biggest difference is the intent and autonomy. So traditional automation follows like a predefined sequence of steps. If this happens, do that. And if it's deterministic and workflows really well for repetitive or like well-defined tasks, but if it is an AI agent, is different because you give it a goal rather than a script, so it can break that goal into smaller tasks, decide which tool to use, adapt a new information when something becomes available, and like even collaborate with other agents to achieve an outcome. So it's just like a fundamentally different way of building software, but that additional autonomy also introduces additional responsibility. So the more freedom we give an agent, the more important it becomes to define that boundaries, and it should also know like what it's allowed to do, but also what it should never do, like without any additional approval. And also, I often say that we shouldn't think of AI agents as intelligent software. We should think of them as like a digital team member. So just like an employee has a role, permission, and accountability, AI agents also need that well-defined responsibilities and access controls, and along with the governance. So I believe that like that's what will allow organizations to confidently move from AI that simply answers the questions to AI that can really like safely take meaningful actions.
As AI agents begin initiating or managing financial transactions, what authority should they be permitted to exercise without direct human approval?
I don't think the question should be like how much authority can we give an agent, but I think it should be like what level of authority has the organization explicitly authorized it to have. So just like we don't give every employee unlimited access to every system, so we shouldn't give AI agents also like unrestricted authority either. So their permissions should be based on the task they are performing, the level of risk is involved, and also like potential impact of the action is involved. For example, an agent could safely gather information, like prepare a payment platform, or like prepare that compliance checks, and also recommend the next step. But when it comes to high value transactions or any regulatory decisions, or actions that could significantly affect a customer, there shouldn't be like a very simple controls. We should come up with additional controls where where we can add like a policy check or a second approval or a human review. So excuse me. I also think authority shouldn't be more of like on the tactical side, and like it should be a bit more like dynamic, and it shouldn't be just static too. So it should be dynamic and context aware. The same agent might be allowed to complete a low risk transaction autonomously, but also require additional approval when the amount, customer risk, or regulatory impact changes over time. So if you look at it, like ultimately, AI agent should have a better authority, that's for sure, but it shouldn't have unlimited autonomy. So they should have earned that autonomy, and also like the more trust that is demonstrated with well-defined guardrails, the more responsible they can safely take on. So that's how we can balance innovation with trust.
I have a background on banking sector and I have worked many years in payment systems. I understand very well what you are saying because either many years before, many years ago, in the, let's say, a traditional way of banking, it was the same, let's say, idea. The authorization was the first one. So in each process, either it was in a more traditional way, the authorization, as I have, let's say, experience, was very important. So if I have done a process, so somebody else that has, let's say, the hierarchy a little bit more lower than me has the authorization to do. And I think it will be the same idea with artificial intelligence, that artificial intelligence could be used to facilitate all these processes, but always authorization from the humans and from the most professional ones, let's say, in each process to be there from humans. So I agree with what you said. In your discussions, you have raised a crucial runtime question.
Mhm.
Who can stop an AI agent while it is in the middle of a transaction?
So I would say like that's like one of the questions I think a lot of people don't discuss enough. So most governance today focuses on what happens before an AI agent is deployed, like things like testing, model validation, and complaints reviews. Those are all important, but once an AI agent is running and interacting with real systems, we also need that runtime governance. So like every AI agent should have like a clear way to be interrupted or stopped, just like we have emergency controls in other critical systems. So whether it's a human operator, a policy engine, or an automated risk monitor, there should always be like a mechanism to pause or terminate an action, even if the agent starts behaving unexpectedly or exceeds its authorized boundaries. And I also think AI agents should continuously evaluate their own confidence. So if they encounter uncertainty or like conflicting information or a situation outside their scope, they shouldn't try to push through, and they should stop, ask for clarification, or like escalate to human. That's the best way possible to do. So to me, that's what more responsible autonomy looks like. And it's not about just building agents that never stop. So it's about building agents that know when they should stop. And also I think that capability will just be as important as the intelligence of the model itself.
What should happen when an AI agent proposes an action that exceeds its authority or falls outside its approved mandate? How can the system escalate that decision to a human without creating delays that introduce additional operational or financial risks?
So I think one of the principles I believe is like fail safely and not silently. So if an agent encounters a request that's outside its permissions, or like exceeds a financial threshold or conflicts with a policy, the safest action is to pause, explain why it can't proceed, and handle the decision to appropriate human or system. So that's where policy-driven architectures become really important. Instead of embedding those business rules inside the AI model, the agent should consult an external policy engine that like determines whether an action is allowed. So that way, policy changes because of regulations or business requirements. You update the policy, but not retrain the complete AI model that you have designed. So it's like also like this situation should be treated as learning opportunities, and also like every escalation provides that valuable feedback that helps organizations refine those policies and like improve workflows, and also identify where AI can safely take on more responsibly over time. And so in my view, exceeding that authority shouldn't be considered a failure of the AI, and uh, it should be seen as the like AI is doing exactly what a trusted employees would do, and recognizing its limits and also asking for better guidance.
You always have emphasized that the best AI model is not always the largest, newest, or most expensive one. How should organizations match the right model to the right financial task?
Like when we are looking at like how to do like a better mapping or like how to identify these kind of things, one of the biggest misconceptions in I would say like in AI is like a bigger model automatically means a better solution. So in reality, the best model is the one that meets uh, the business needs when balancing that accuracy, latency, cost, privacy, and reliability. So there are like a lot more aspects, I would say. So, but for example, not every financial task requires a better frontier model. So summarizing like a document, classifying transactions, extracting information, or just answering some policy questions can often be handled very effectively by smaller or domain specific models, so that you kind of reserve the more powerful models for complex reasoning where that would truly add value. So that's why I always believe organizations should think in terms of AI systems, not individual models. So in many cases, a routing layer can intelligently select the most appropriate model based on the task, sensitivity of the data, or like performance requirements, and even the cost aspect. So I would say that approach is not only efficient but also easier to maintain and scale. And at the end of the day, like customers don't really care like which model you use. They only care that the result is accurate, secure, and fast, and also trustworthy for them. So I think that's a mindset organizations should adopt as AI continues to evolve.
Production teams must balance accuracy, costs, privacy, governance, reliability, security, and scalability. Which of these factors is most frequently underestimated by business leaders and why, by your experience?
Uh, I would say governance is probably the most underestimated, especially as organizations adopt agentic AI. Most teams naturally focus on model accuracy because it's easy to measure, but in production, a highly accurate model can still become a business risk if you don't know why it made a decision, what data it accessed, or like what tools it used, or whether it operated within its authorized boundaries or not. So it's more of governance is just isn't just about compliance, but it's about building confidence. So it includes that auditability, clear authorization policies, versioning, and also the ability to monitor and intervene while the system is running. So not just before it's deployed. And I also think that organizations are realizing that building the AI model is not just the easiest part, but building the ecosystem around it, security, governance, monitoring, and that operational reliability is kind of is what determines whether AI succeeds in production or not. So, if you have to pick like one factor, I would go for governance, because when governance is done well, it strengthens almost everything else. Like whatever we're discussing, the important aspects like security, compliance, and ultimately the trust.
In a last summit that we have, it was a panel that discussed related the governance and the relation with artificial intelligence. So it's very important how the organizations, the corporates, and the institutions uh, govern this process, because there, as you emphasize, it's not only a team or two, but is, let's say, a group of teams that need to very well collaborate together to
Mhm.
have then successful results. You suggest that strong AI architecture may include a routing layer that sends each request to the most appropriate model. How can organizations govern such a multimodal system while maintaining consistent behavior, transparency, explainability, and clear accountability?
I think for this, the key is to govern the system, not just the individual models. So, in a multimodal architecture, different models may be optimized for different tasks. Like one for reasoning, another for document analysis, like another for code generation, or perhaps a smaller model for routine requests. So that's great, I would say, like from a performance and cost perspective, but it can also introduce inconsistency if each model follows different rules. So That's also why I think organizations need a common governance layer that sits above the models. Regardless of which model is selected, the same policies for security, data access, privacy, audit logging, and human approval, and all this should apply. So the routing layer decides which model is best for the task, but governance decides what this model is allowed to do. So it's also important to continuously observe how these systems behave in production, and you want that visibility like into why a product particular model was selected, how it performed, and whether its decisions align with the policies or not. So that feedback helps improve both the routing strategy and the governance over time. And also like users shouldn't have to care which model handle their requests. They should have confidence that regardless of the model, the system is secure, transparent, and accountable for the customer. So that's what I believe good AI architecture is really about.
You have also explored how quantum computing could transform real time payments. What opportunities could it create for financial infrastructure? And at the same time, what cybersecurity, privacy, or ethical risks should financial institutions begin preparing for today?
I think the quantum computing has more potential to transform the financial infrastructure. So particularly, it's like in areas like optimization, portfolio management, fraud detection, or like real-time settlement. And if you look at the problems that are extremely complex for today's computers, could eventually be solved much faster, like making financial systems more efficient and responsive. So, and if you look at it at the same time, it introduces a very important cybersec challenge. So, most of like today's digital security relies on cryptographic algorithms that were designed for classical computers. So, as quantum computing advances, these organizations need to kind of start preparing for a transition to quantum resistant cryptography so that it's not just immediate concern for most businesses, but also it is something we should be planning for today because the financial infrastructure has a very long life cycle. And so I'd say like I see quantum computing as an incredible opportunity, but only if we prepare for it with the same level of responsibility that we expect from every other critical technology.
Thank you, Nikhil. Now, as a mentor to future technology leaders, what advice would you give the next generation of architects and engineers who want to build powerful AI systems without losing sight of trust, ethics, and human responsibility?
I would say more on that aspect. Like, I would definitely kind of like both technology with the problem we are trying to solve. So AI is definitely uh, fast, but models will change, frameworks will change, and new breakthroughs will keep coming. But the principles behind the good engineering don't change. So we have to build systems that are secure, reliable, transparent, and designed with people in mind. And I also encourage like the young engineers to think beyond writing code and learn how systems operate in the real world, understand security, governance, privacy regulations, and the business impact of the solutions we are really building. So that's where a lot of transformation, like a great engineer, and can become into like a great architect or something bigger. So and finally, remembering that trust is something you earn, so not just something you add at the end of a project. So every design decision either builds trust or weakens it. So if you can build AI systems that people not only use but genuinely trust, you can create technology that has a lasting and positive impact.
Thank you. Now, last question. If you could establish a non negotiable rule for every organization deploying agentic AI in financial services, what would that rule be?
That's a very good question. I think we can keep it simple. So Never allow an AI agent to have more authority than the organization can understand, explain, and control. That is what I feel.
Thank you very much, Nikhil. Our conversation today reminds us that the future of financial artificial intelligence will not be determined by model performance alone. It will be determined by the systems surrounding the models, the permissions we give them, the boundaries we establish, the evidence they produce, the humans who supervise them, and the mechanism we create to intervene when something goes wrong. As AI evolves from a system that recommends actions to one that can execute them, ethics can no longer exist only in principles, policies, or design documents. It must become part for the operating architecture. The challenge is not simply to make AI agents more capable. It is to ensure that greater capability is matched by stronger control, clearer responsibility, and deeper public trust. Nikhil, thank you very much for joining AI and Ethics podcast today and for helping us understand what it will take to build financial systems that are not only intelligent and efficient, but also secure, fair, accountable, and fundamentally human centered. And thank you to everyone for listening. If this conversation gave you a new perspective on AI, financial technology, or the future of autonomous systems, please follow AI and Ethics podcast, share this episode, and join us for our next discussion. Until next time, let us continue asking not only what artificial intelligence can do, but what it should do, who should remain accountable, and how we can ensure that technology continues to serve people. This is AI and Ethics podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you again, Nikhil, for
Thank you
your
so
time
much.
and experience you
Yeah,
shared with us.
definitely. Thank you so much. It was truly a pleasure to be part of this conversation.